Hey there, sweet friends. This is Gina, and welcome to the Rebookery channel. This is the last part of my Anatomy of a Page journal spread that I put together over the holiday, and this is where I'm going to put the final touches on. So I couldn't find a focal point for this. I was thinking my grandma, and I was looking at birds in my backyard, and after many hours of searching through stuff and getting down some serious rabbit holes, and I finally came across some photos that I had printed out of my grandma when she was young, and there was some ones that didn't print very well, so they were, I don't ever throw them away if they don't print well, but I just always kind of hang on to them for occasions like this. So there was this one photo, it didn't print very well. It was really small, but I loved it because it was my grandma, and it was, gosh, if I remember, she was holding a baby, and then behind her was like a barn and a farmhouse. And so what I did was I cut the picture in half, and I used the landscape one that had the barn and the farm and everything. I used it on the right-hand side because it was just, I don't know, it's just a really cool photo. And then I used the part where she's holding the baby, you can see over on the left-hand side. And so I'm just trying to find how I want to, I need something that's going to pull that photo visually off of the page. And so I'm looking for something to put on the background. I've got so much going on in this page, and with these photos being black and white, I really need something to draw your eye to it. And I love the juxtaposition of the colorful, crazy background against this bland black and white photos, the simple black and white photo, and then that crazy background. And so I just settle on a piece of book page, I think, as the backing, and that's going to work perfect. I'm going to set it right there in the center of the collage items that I already have on this page. And then what I want to do is want to see, and this is a total experiment, but I want to see if I can take and kind of lessen the harshness of that black and white photo. And so I'm just going to mix up some watercolor paint here. I'm going to kind of go with some tan or some brown. And because I printed my photos at home, I know that they will accept this paint. Now, if you have yours professionally painted or printed, or depending on what type of printer you use, you may not be able to do this, but I know I can do this on my photos because I do it quite a bit. So all I'm doing is just taking a wash of that tan paint and kind of painting the backgrounds so that like the buildings and my grandma kind of sticks out a bit, and it kind of ages the photos even more, because these were copies of some old photos that I had scanned and then just printed them out. And so it's just kind of knocking off that harsh white. I also like the way it makes, especially on that horizon photo, how it makes the sky look kind of dark and dusty, because this was going to be during that dark and dusty time period, out in the plains, and probably in the middle of summer, and there's probably storms coming, and it's just, I just kind of wanted to recreate that. And so I just knocked off a little bit of that white with the watercolor paint there, and I really love it. And then I'm able to kind of sop it up a little bit with that cloth. If you can't use watercolor, if your photo paper won't allow you to use watercolor, because a lot of photo paper is water resistant, you might try Sharpie. That might work also. But yeah, it's just an experiment. And so now I'm just adding a little bit of shadowing since I got my watercolors out. I'm just kind of, I don't know, just, really kind of playing around, adding a little bit of detail, kind of making some of those items on my page stick out, like the photo. And then the last thing I want to do is I want to find some sort of text to kind of complete this story. And so going to go to some books, like my, I think I end up and use my old Dick and Jane book and just see if I can find some simple text. Now, the thing about this photo is that I don't really know where my grandma was. And I don't really know if that was her baby that she was holding. I feel like this was somewhere, I want to say up north. I feel like my grandma, she lived for a while in Minnesota and in Iowa, and I don't think that this was one of her babies. I think this might have been a cousin or something, but I could be totally wrong. So obviously I don't know the story of this photo, but I'm just trying to recreate it in my head and tell the story that I think is happening in this photo. And so I kind of am just going off of this farm vibe, this farm theme, because I do know my grandma, she is a farm grandma. And so I do know I am telling, a true story when I say something that has to do with a farm. So I'm just looking for some text. I want it to be really, really simple. And that's why I love using the Dick and Jane book or just children's books in general, because the text is so simple. I mean, that's why they were readers back in the day, was because the words were very familiar. They were very similar. You used the same phrases over and over again. It was a lot of sight words. And in my journaling, I love using that type of text because it doesn't tell too much of the story. It gives you just enough that you could fill in the rest with your own story, with your own imagination. And that really, really simple text is what I'm always drawn to, because I'm not, I don't do a lot of writing, and I don't like my voice a lot of the times. I can tell when I've read some journaling and I'm just like, ooh, I tried to make that happen, and it's kind of cringeworthy. But the journal spreads where I just use simple text, those are my favorites, because then I see, okay, there's the skeleton of the story, and then I can fill it in with whatever else I think happened. And I like for my readers or my viewers of my journals, which that's you guys, but I like for you guys to be able to do that too. I think that really adds to the whole, I mean, that's really what art is. When you go and, you go to a museum and you look at art that an artist has put out there, isn't most of it you interpreting what you think the artist was trying to say? And so that's kind of my way of doing that, is using very sparse words. I hope that made sense. I kind of just went down a rabbit hole there, but it's true though. That is why I do those simple texts, is because I like just enough to get you going. And I don't like to literally tell stories. I know in scrapbooking, that was a lot of scrapbooking, and that was where I had such a hard time, because I just couldn't sit down and say, okay, one day we went to the blah, 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 blah. I did those, and it just felt so, I don't know, fake, forced, and it just wasn't my voice. So book text is my friend. That is for sure. All right, my friends, here's the finished piece, and I love this. It just makes me smile. So much going on, so many layers, and then just a simple story, and you can let your mind wander and kind of decide what you think is happening in that story. I hope you got some inspiration from this. If you haven't checked out the first two parts, I'll link them below. I hope you guys are healthy. I hope you guys are happy, and I hope you have a great rest of the day. Do something creative today. Bye.